Phoenix.ca is leading the way in men's digital health in Canada. Did you know that 52% of men have experienced some form of erectile dysfunction? Phoenix offers a discreet online solution by connecting you with a licensed Canadian doctor who can prescribe you with the treatments you need. You can decide on which treatment works best for you, whether you want to plan ahead or be prepared for something more spontaneous. The process is simple. Just go to phoenix.ca, complete the online quiz, and Phoenix will connect you with a licensed physician who can prescribe you with treatments such as brand name or generic Viagra and Cialis. No more uncomfortable visits to your family doctor, no more waiting in line at the pharmacy. Phoenix delivers your treatment in discreet packaging directly to your door. And right now, Phoenix is offering a 100% discount on your consultation. That's right, Mind Picker listeners. You'll get their consultation with a licensed Canadian doctor completely free. Visit phoenix.ca today and start your journey to a more confident you. That's phoenix.ca, phoenix.ca. Rise again with Phoenix. Hey everyone, my guest today is a former UFC fighter who had some fantastic fights and a ton of fight bonuses, and that's the Irish Hand Grenade, Marcus Davis. Marcus, thanks for being on the show today.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on, man.
So how's it going?
It's going well. Yeah, I'm real busy, and life is good. Life is good.
Nice. Busy. Are you coaching now? Is that what you mainly do, or?
Yeah, well, um, I have an education in biomechanics and physiology, and I'm actually finishing up a program or schooling on osteopathic medicine and stuff. But I work as a biomechanist for this company. Actually, let's see right here, core results. See if I can tilt this phone right. Anyways, we have two locations in North Carolina. We have one in Raleigh and one in Cary. And I'm mainly in the Cary studio. I go to the Raleigh studio sometimes, but I work with people who might have been athletes in the past, and now might have had some surgeries and some injuries and stuff like that, and try to help them get back on their feet, and and even work with people who might have some kind of comorbidity or something like that, and just need help to get back into be able to be functionally strong and healthy again.
Oh, okay. Is it kind of like a physiotherapy type?
Yeah, right. So it can go anything from like you said, like in like physical therapy, or or even just somebody who, like, they have people there that right, just have like goals and stuff like that. Whether it's weight loss goals or actual specific goals. Like, I do work with people that are competitive athletes. I have some, especially runners. That's pretty popular down here. So I have a lot of people that I work with that run. Um, but and then I'm still training people. I work at a place called United. It's a Muay Thai and MMA. And I think we've got like 5 or 6 guys there that have won like world titles on some of the kickboxing circuits. And then here and there working with some MMA people and stuff. But I'm still in, kind of floating around in the sport a little bit, but nowhere near where I was in the early 2000s.
Right. You started out boxing, is that correct?
Yeah, I started out in 1982. I started out traditional martial arts, but then started boxing around, I think, like 84 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where all my focus went to at that time. Was I kind of left the martial arts focus and just well, obviously boxing is a martial art, but as far as the traditional aspect of martial arts, I kind of left that and just focused on my boxing career. And then didn't get back into really the martial arts era until maybe very early, like 2000, I guess. I was training Tim Sylvia. He was one of my doormen, and I had a few other guys that I was working with back in the very late 90s, going into the 2000s. But my focus was still boxing at that time, as far as my main priority, my main job. And then
Okay.
I was playing around with other, I was still like, I wasn't supposed to be training in other martial arts because I'd signed a contract, and it ended up going to court and getting my contract back because it was dubbed a contract of slavery. So it was a real bad contract, but and I wasn't even supposed to be doing anything other than boxing. But I used to go and used to jump into some classes and do stuff and some sparring and everything back then. Just try to get away with it. But yeah, it's what I wanted to do.
Yeah. When did you make the transition from boxing just to like mixed martial arts?
I want to say it was I think it was like 2000, maybe 1 or 2002. Um, and I had gotten a phone call from a promoter um, that was running a show in Massachusetts, and asked me if I'd be interested in fighting on the show, and said that they had a guy that was a amateur boxer, but it was a wrestler from Montclair University in New Jersey that wanted to fight me, and this was actually at heavyweight. So I was, after boxing my whole career, 147 to maybe 152, which is junior middleweight. That's where I spent most of my time. When I was kind of forced into retirement because this bad contract I'd signed and had to go to court to get through it, I just jumped on the weights. I was on a 6,000 calorie diet. I blew up to 225 pounds, and just looked like a cartoon character because, I'm only I'm barely 5'10", so I'm like 5'9 3/4, and my build isn't, I don't have a long reach. I'm, short legs, short arms, so it looked kind of weird. I had arms the size of soccer balls, and so I was just a real big, thick guy, or sort of, short and thick. And after having, I think I had like 4 fights at heavyweight, and I stopped everybody by knockout. And I just, in my head, I was like, well, if I lose all that weight, it'll be that much easier. But especially at that time, definitely in the bigger categories, people weren't as well versed in the grappling aspect as they are now. Like, it's such a big thing now. Just the jujitsu and the just the ground game now. It's completely changed compared to what it was at that time. If you look back to what people were doing and how they were submitting people 4 years ago, it looks a lot different than what it looks like now. So
Established in November 2015, the Cook's Edge is a retail chef supply store and dealer of hand-forged Japanese knives. They are proud to work directly with small knife makers from Japan to bring the best kitchen tools available to their customers and clientele. They also offer full-service knife sharpening and knife repair with clients from all over Canada and the United States. Their online store, thecooksedge.com, has their full catalog of chef tools, cookbooks, and apparel. Thank you to Cook's Edge for sponsoring this episode.
I think that some of the grappling that they're doing now won't translate over to MMA as well, because of the striking aspect of it. But there are definitely some guys out there that have the skill to be able to apply it in that fashion where I think a lot of other people struggle. Like you can see specific fights that you'll hear about somebody coming from the sport of jujitsu or something like that, and they have big hopes for them going into MMA, and they really kind of don't work out. So
Yeah, you've seen that time and time again.
yeah,
Yeah, you sort of came up in the time when things were all just really starting to mesh together, it seems. Like a lot of the guys were one dimensional, but then around the time you were in the UFC, I remember thinking like, okay, guys are really starting to put it together, like boxing, strike, or all different kinds of striking and
right.
wrestling, jiu-jitsu, becoming like a really complete fighter.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And then, from 1993, when you had the first UFC, all the way until 2000, um, you had people that were jumping around from gym to gym because there was no gym that really had, a straight MMA, just MMA itself. I mean, don't get me wrong, there were some, right? Like, obviously, some of those Gracie places, even though, like, now I know lots of Gracie places that just do jujitsu, but,
Mhm.
uh, the Gracies over in Rio were doing that. And then, the team Militich, which was the first team I was on, was doing that. Then you had Ken Shamrock and his Lions Den, and so you had a few that were just specifically doing MMA. But at that time, there were a lot of us that were going to a boxing gym to work on our hands, a Muay Thai gym to work on being able to kick and knee and elbow, and then going to a wrestling place or a jujitsu place to get that ground. And, but the time, like you're mentioning, when I was on the Ultimate Fighter, it kind of that was the point where it kind of segued into MMA was its own thing, and there were a lot of like just straight up MMA gyms and stuff. I used to go when I was on the Ultimate Fighter after that show ended. Anytime that I went to Vegas, I either went to Randy Couture's gym or I'd go to back then they used to have the Zions Center. Zions was a big supplementation company that was sponsoring the UFC, and the Zions Center had this nice big MMA gym, and I used to go in there and bump into a lot of like UFC athletes, and I grapple spar and stuff like that with those guys when I'd be out there.
Nice. You mentioned you were on The Ultimate Fighter. Whenever they're filming that, are they filming like are the guys I don't know how to phrase this correctly, but are they the way they seem on the show or are there things being filmed to make it seem a little more dramatic and stuff like that?
Well, there are things that they do and they push you to try to do to make it more dramatic, and they'll say things to you to try to get a rise out of you, and they'll want you to say things over again, but in a different way. They'll say, "Hey, could you say it again, but this time add this to it?" Like, so that it's not all pure reality.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that if you're a willing participant, uh, you know, and something like that happens, and you get seen not what you meant to be seen, I mean, that's your fault. Like, I, I was like, I knew that their production people there really didn't care much for me because they would constantly ask me to say something or to do something a little different or whatever, and I just didn't even play that game. I was like, no, I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna be exactly who I am, and um, and I think that our with our season, uh, it uh, went really well, compared to the season before where they had all kinds of problems, like the drinking and the guys pissing on each other's beds and stuff like that. Like, they had a lot
Yeah.
of issues. We didn't have that. Ours was kind of boring compared to them. There were some real funny moments, and some of them they didn't make it to TV for whatever reason. But you know, um, I just I'm not a huge fan of reality TV. I don't watch any of it. I actually don't watch TV at all anymore. I haven't watched a, a TV program for many years. Like, I just don't do it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's probably not a bad way to be. it's so easy just to sit down in front of the TV and just watch one thing after another,
Yeah.
especially with the way Netflix is now, where they want you to binge watch. So like everything, it's
Yeah.
just next episode starts right away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I don't even have Netflix. I don't even have any of that stuff. So I do have a Prime account because I order stuff and everything. And um, I have watched on there. I watched that Reacher thing because everybody was telling me I had to watch it. So
oh
I
yeah.
did see that. Yeah, that's pretty good. But yeah, all in all, I don't. I do. I watch a lot of like things that are like TED Talks. You know what I mean? Like I'll
Mhm.
watch a lot of that stuff, and uh, I I pay a an internet company to be able to read clinical data on stuff, whether it's diet, supplementation, drugs that are new drugs that are coming out, and all these different studies and stuff. So that's kind of the stuff that I'm into.
Mhm.
Is I'm really into the uh, more of the osteopathic way of healing and getting healthy and um, following those things and trying to stay away from big pharma and you know doing it the cleanest, best way you can to live a long and happy life rather than um, you know basically just polluting yourself, damaging your DNA, and you know changing your uh, literally changing your insides by taking these pharmaceuticals, which I think a huge population of people are so medicated, and I know this because uh, right now I work with 16 clients right now. I have
Mhm.
16 private clients that I work with, and then out of that 16, I'm gonna say I want to say 14 out of the 16 are on some sort of like medication consistently.
Right.
They're all yeah. So um, yeah, I think there's only two that I have that aren't. So and I'm not one to I don't tell people yeah you can't take this or whatever, but I try to at least guide them that there are other things um, that you can use that to get those benefits that are more holistic rather than uh, you know um, taking something that is genetically modified, made by man, and could these things that it says okay, well this will help this and this will stop you from smoking, but it's going to give you high blood pressure and it's going to uh, interfere with your sleep, and it's gonna then these the next side effect and the next side effect and everything is always there, and then
Right.
it, and then they'll end it with potentially bleeding out of your anus, right? They're like, okay, I want to stop smoking, but I'm going to trade it for bleeding out of my anus, like right? I don't get it. So
Yeah.
right, so and a lot of that stuff too is it's dealing with your subconscious, right? Your subconscious is who you are. Like everything you do has to do with your subconscious. You don't think about who you are consciously. I don't sit there and go, "Oh, I'm Marcus, and I react to these things because these things make me angry because I've had this kind of like childhood history." Like that's all automatic reactive stuff that's part of your subconscious. Is who you are because of all your experiences and everything you've gone through your whole life. And that just kind of sits in the back. And some of it is a ticking time bomb. Like that's why people lose their shit sometimes because, right, they have that little ticking time bomb, like I said, in the back there that's just waiting for uh, the opportunity to go off. not, and again, they may not be meaning to, but it's there, and it's like if I hear this or if I experience this, I'm just going to start wrecking shit. And some people are wired that way, and
Hmm.
you know, and like I said, like uh, you can either take some sort of pill that you think is a magic pill to kind of deal with that, or you can do it yourself. And if and some people will say that they've tried or whatever, but I think that it's that if you do try and it doesn't work for you, and you need that, then all for it, right? I'm not, like, if you could, if you can, if something like that and you take that and it gives you a better life, like,
Hmm.
that's great. That's great. But at the same time, for me, I'm always looking for uh, a, a more natural, healthier option. And and I think it also, how you grow up and all that stuff dictates it too. Like, all my experiences of growing up and what I witnessed with my parents and the other family members really drove me to be who I am now, much more so than anything else. So, and I come from a family of raging alcoholics, like everybody
Hmm.
on both sides, and they're all smoking, and their diets were horrible. Like, the only one in my family that I can think of that was relatively healthy was my grandfather on my mother's side, and he was a professional boxer and a real respected man in the community where we were at. And
Hmm.
so, and he didn't smoke, and he drank, but he didn't drink. I never watched him drink. Um, I never saw him drink, but I know that I was told that he did, and but not never to excess in front of me. So.
Are you a fan of all things gaming? Are you searching for a one-stop destination where you can find everything you need to fuel your passion for Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Flesh and Blood, and Lorcana? Look no further. Welcome to XOR Games, your ultimate home for all your gaming needs. At XOR Games, we pride ourselves on offering a vast selection of the latest and greatest gaming product. Whether you're a seasoned player or just starting your gaming journey, we have everything you need to level up your collection. Calling all Warhammer and Gunpla enthusiasts, XOR Games is your go-to destination for the best prices on these incredible models. Unleash your creativity and build your dream armies or mechs with our extensive range of options. Visit us today at our store located at 51 Allen Street, Charlottetown, or check out our website at www.xorgames.com. XOR Games, your home for everything gaming. Right. Was he how you got into boxing?
It was sort of like a driving force. So when I was real little, he was very quiet. And when we would go over and visit, I would, my mom would plop me on the floor in his living room, and he'd be sitting in the lazy boy chair, and he would just be watching, back then, Sugar Ray Leonard and Duran, and Marvis Marvin Hagler, who was my favorite, you know, Tommy Hearns, uh, all these old great fighters from the late '70s, early '80s, and stuff. So I'd watch those with him, and he would. We always called him Grampy Dukes because he would say, "Put up your dukes" to everybody. So, but yeah, when he was alive, he was a good man, and he was a one of the driving forces or reasons that I think that I took to boxing so much as a young boy.
Oh, that's awesome. I just want to circle back. You mentioned about being on The Ultimate Fighter. Um, when you're on that show, do you get compensated like for your time there?
Yeah, it's not much. It's very minimal. But they did pay us for just being there. And I think it worked out to, like, for us, I don't even think it worked out to like $1,000 a week, because I think
Wow.
yeah, it's not even that. Because I believe we were our our taping, I think, was the longest ever. So I think that the first season they taped for, I want to say it was like 5 weeks. It might have been 5 weeks that they taped that. And then with ours, because they were trying all this other stuff out, I want to say we were 6 or 7 or maybe even 8 weeks. It was long. I just remember it was really long. And, and when I've communicated with people in that industry still, and that comes up, they mentioned that was the longest that they had to tape. So, yeah. And I've been asked to do other reality stuff, and I said no. The only reality TV show that I actually did outside of that was Doomsday Preppers, because they had said that they wanted me to do it, and they would only shoot in a day. They wouldn't use me for any longer than a day. So I did that. I think it was season 2, episode, I think it's 11 or 12. I think it's called Hit the Ground Running, I think is the name of the episode.
Oh, okay.
But I did that, and they, brought these people that had a bunker on an island, and they thought that, MMA might be the best thing to take up in case there was a fallout, that, if you couldn't, defend yourself, if you weren't able to, use a weapon, if you had no hand-to-hand combat, right, whatever you had was going to become somebody else's because you wouldn't be able to defend it. So, yeah, so we kind of like went with that, and there was no script or anything. We just kind of freeballed it out. So it's kind of a funny episode if you watch it. It's
I'll have to
interesting.
check that out.
Yeah, I ended up punching the guy in the face at the end. So,
Like a real punch.
well, I had a glove on, but and I had told them, they told me that they wanted me to fight him at the end, the guy that I was training, and he was older than me, and I'm fucking old, like, and so he's older than me, and I said to them, I go, you do understand, like I hit hard for people, like other people who fight like MMA and stuff would tell you that I hit extremely hard, like as far as, especially like, throwing like angular punches because of my build and the way that I'm made. Right, you have torque and force, and
Exactly.
I have a lot of torque in my body. Like I can really throw hard, and I was like, I could hit this guy with a punch and it could kill him. Like this guy's not a fighter. Like this guy's never fought before, and you're asking me, and they said, well, yeah, he'll be all right. He'll be all right. So, and I barely hit him, and I put headgear on him and everything. And I barely hit him and split him open, even in the friggin' headgear. So, yeah, you just don't know. It was crazy, but it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a good time.
Yeah.
Not too often you get to go to work and get to punch somebody. I guess for you, maybe you do, but
Yeah. Early on, that's all I did, man. So I was in the nightclub industry, and then even when I was the manager, I think I got in more fights managing it than I did when I was working the door. So because people would get so angry at me because I was the manager and I was calling the last, I was the last, I had the last word, and I was booting people out all the time, and I would, whether I was trying to leave the establishment and they were waiting for me, or people finding me, I could be out to dinner with, on a date or something at that time, and I might run into somebody. So, yeah, man, that was crazy. Those were
that
just
would
nutty
be.
times.
Speaking of people shooting off and trying to fight you, there's a fight I got to bring up. You and Dan Hardy.
Oh yeah.
That guy talked so much trash going into that fight.
Yep.
And for the record, I think that you won the fight. I was at a Buffalo Wild Wings, and everyone booed whenever Dan Hardy was announced the winner. But What's it like going into a fight with a guy like that who's been just running his mouth the whole time? Like, does that change like your mindset as soon as you get in there, or?
Well, I don't think it would now. You know what I mean? That was the
Mhm.
first time that's ever happened. Like that, nobody had ever like I'd never experienced that before.
No.
Um, and a lot of people don't know this. Like they knew that I was so serious about causing, physical harm to him that they like normally, right, when you have that kind of fight. So we were on the main card and you have that kind of fight, you want to have them engaging and talking shit and having you right. And like even if you look at like Sean Strickland, who obviously comes off as a loose cannon,
Yeah.
and Duplessis, they even put them in the same area, like sitting near each other and all that crap. Um, when we were doing that fight, they asked us to do first, like this was probably like 8 weeks or maybe 6 weeks before the fight. I had to call into like this hub, and it was
Mhm.
a bunch of reporters that were going to be in this hub asking me questions, and Dan. So Dan was in there too. And once I got in there and he started talking, I heard his voice. I didn't stop. I was just screaming and hollering over the thing, telling him like I was like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. Like, I don't care where we are. If I see you in the hotel, I'm gonna freaking smash your face. If I see you on the streets, I'm gonna smash your face. Like the whole time I was going crazy. And they were telling me to, hey, calm down. We got a question. And I just kept going on and on and on. And then when they put us in the hotel, they put us on opposite sides of the hotel, and they didn't even allow us to go to the pre fight conference or the after one. Like they separated he and I the whole time. Uh, because I guess that they felt as though which I was very serious. That all I wanted to do was just street fight this guy, and and I learned my lesson because I was so angry, and I was just that I let that get to me. And even though I agree, I think I still won the fight.
Mhm.
And so did Fox Sports and a bunch of other ones that did the especially if you look at the tail of the tape where it talks about takedowns and positioning and strikes landed and all that stuff. My
Yeah.
numbers were much better, but um, I let it get to me, and whereas I think that if I had been more cerebral about it, and I think I could have stopped him, if uh, if I had been able to control my emotions a little better. So hat off to him because it was a smart play.
Yeah, was he before Chael for trash talking? I think he was, right?
Um, they might have been around the same time, but yeah, he's no Chael. Chael's the best.
Yeah.
I love Chael Sonnen. I listen to his podcast all the time too. I think he's just freaking hilarious.
He
He's
is.
like
He's
he's one of
fantastic.
my favorite. Yeah, he's by far my favorite guy to listen to. Like break stuff down. He's very smart,
Mhm.
and he does know and he knows the business like uh, better than any other fighter out there. Like he knows the business. He knows what sells. He knows what you should say. He knows when you should shut up. Like he's really educated on this, and so I enjoy watching his show.
Yeah. I love his story about Wanderlei Silva not knowing that he was trying to promote a fight.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, shut up, you're the good guy.
Right. Yeah. He's like trying to help him. He's like, yeah. He's man, like, and that shit that he says about, the Nogueira brothers trying to feed hay to a bus because they thought it was he thought it was like a giant animal. And,
Yeah.
he's just the best. He's what is shit.
Yeah, that Anderson Silva fight, I'm sure my like heart fell out on the floor because I thought he had it won. I was so excited. Like,
Yeah,
Anderson Silva's amazing, but Chael just completely won me over because I was a big wrestling fan, and that trash talk was just fantastic.
yeah. Yeah, he mashed him like the whole first fight. Like it wasn't
Yeah,
even close. He just was beating him up, dropped him with punches and takedowns. He's taking him down left and right, but he dropped him with some good shots too, and like just couldn't put him out. And
yeah,
that's how it goes. Like you're right, you can win every second of a fight, but if your hand isn't the one raised at the end, it doesn't really matter.
that's right. You fought at a couple of different weight classes, right?
I fought all over the place. Yeah,
Yeah.
fought as heavy as 226 and as light as 154.
Oh,
So
okay. So you
all
were
through.
fighting lightweight,
Yeah.
middleweight.
I fought lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, light heavy, and heavyweight.
What differences do you find in your style based on which weight class you're at?
Um, yeah, like yeah, that's a good question because and when I was as a heavyweight, all I did was because I was hard to take down because I'm short, and I really didn't worry about that at all. Like,
Hmm.
and I could just let my hands go. So, um, and it was about blitzing guys because I didn't have the height. So if I stayed on the outside and they were, throwing like lazy shots, trying to just control the distance, I did really well with that. Lazy, when I say shots, punches, um, trying to control the distance, I did really well with that and being able to close the gap pretty fast and catching them. Um, so, and then as I got lighter, my opponents became more athletic, more agile, and better, well-rounded. Uh, like a lot of times when you're just a giant guy, you can just rely on being just bigger and stronger than your opponent.
Hmm.
Um, and if you're in a gym and if your gym is filled with a bunch of smaller guys, you're going to do that all the time. If you get into a gym and you're 275, let's say, and you cutting 10 pounds to make 265 for the UFC, and you're in a gym with a bunch of 205ers, right? You're gonna have a false sense of security because you're gonna believe that you're bigger and stronger than everybody, um, potentially, and then have some issues.
Yeah.
But you know, uh, but yeah, so as a heavyweight, my style was very different than uh, when compared to being like 155 pounds, where uh, you know, everything there everything's at a higher speed. Like the, you know, the strikes and the grappling are just so much faster that it's a completely different game.
Right. Yeah. Those the lightweights, I remember watching them and just being in awe of how fast their hands are. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Um, keeping on the topic of UFC, is there any rules you would like changed in a fight?
Yeah. Well, I don't like you can't knee a grounded opponent. I think they should be able to do that.
Yep.
Uh, and I think the rules in the UFC obviously favor the wrestler because, right, he can put you against the cage and drag you down. And, um, and like I said, they can shoot. Uh, and like if you stuff a shot, right, all you can do is throw punches at them. You can't start kneeing them in the head or anything like that. So,
Mhm.
I think that again is goes to the grappler. So yeah, I think that I would rather there be knees on the ground than there even be elbows. Like so, if I had to choose, I would rather be able to punch, kick, and knee on the ground than elbow because, granted, elbows are great for cutting an opponent, but they're not usually right unless you're looking at that cut as a tool for ending a fight, right? I can end this. I can end this fight because the doctor's stopping the fight, but that still doesn't mean that you are even the better fighter because, right? They're stopping that off what they see. It has nothing to do with like it's very rare you're going to see somebody. Don't get me wrong, it happens, but it's going to be rare that you're going to see somebody get hit with an elbow and the elbow just knocks the guy out and he's out for good, right? Guys like David Wazo used to throw elbows like that, but not a lot of guys throw elbows like that. And elbows are cutting weapons. So they just do all this superficial damage and the fights can get stopped and it's, and it's a way to win. But whereas, right, you're less likely to get cut, with the other tools. So that's my thought. But I'd rather all of it was in there, right, to be ideally. But it's not. So if I had to pick or choose, that's how I'd look at it.
Yeah, having those tools on the ground too would help move the fight along too, like advancing positions and things like that, would it not?
Yeah, because you got to be worried the whole time. Like at any time, right, somebody starts to break away and get a little bit of room, a knee can be thrown up that middle and can completely change the fight. Like so, right. And there are guys that play that game, like how they shoot and how they wrestle is based on, the fact that they can't get kneed. Like they're literally tactically doing it in such a way so that they know they don't have to worry about being kneed. The only thing they have to or kicked in the head. All they got to worry about is being punched, and punching somebody when they're trying to take you down is 9 out of 10 times that's going to fail.
Right. Do you prefer fighting in a ring or in the cage?
I mean, I think the cage is better for straight out MMA. I think the ring is better for striking arts. So I think if you're just striking, do it in the ring. If you're doing MMA, even though the cage benefits the grappler more, I still feel as though the rest of the cage should be beneficial to the striker. It's only the being pushed against the wall that goes for the wrestler.
Right. Just have a couple more questions. One of them being, if you could have a dream fight against anyone at any time in the UFC, or MMA in general, who would you have picked?
Oh, I think at one point I would have picked Gomi when Gomi was really hot.
Yeah.
And he used to. So back in the day when Gomi was just knocking people out in Pride, I really wanted to fight him. And I went after a UFC fight that I had in Birmingham, England, and I fought. At that time, he was undefeated. It was what's his name? Kelly, Paul Kelly.
Oh,
so
yes.
I fought Paul Kelly. He was like 8-0 at the time, and then I submitted him. I had after that at the UFC press conference, I had called out Gomi. I was like, because I heard that. Remember, at that time was when Pride and UFC were joining. Like UFC had bought Pride, so they were looked like that was going to happen. And I was like, oh man, that'll be great. I'd like to fight Gomi. And then I think what ended up happening is he came over, and I think he fought two people that I remember. I want to say he fought Kenny Florian, and Kenny beat him. Kenny was one of my teammates. And then also Diaz beat him.
Right.
Yeah, I think both Diaz brothers. Did both of them beat him? I know the older Diaz beat him in Pride by Gogo Plata, I believe. And then they took it away from him because he tested positive for pot. And then I want to say Nate beat him also in the UFC. I might be
I
wrong,
think
but
you're right.
I think both Diaz brothers beat him.
Yeah.
So yeah. So it was before that. I think he was either undefeated or he only had one loss on his record when I wanted to fight him. So that would have been the fight.
That would have been a great fight.
Yeah.
Kenny Florian, there's a name I haven't heard in a while, but I loved that guy when he was fighting. He was so much fun to watch.
Yeah, yeah. Kenny was a surprising guy. Like, you wouldn't. Doesn't come off as a fighter, but
No.
yeah.
Last question. How did you get the nickname Irish Hand Grenade?
That was given to me when I was a boxer and I was fighting out of Boston. I was living down in Massachusetts. Every time I would go to the gym, not every time, but a lot of times that I would go to the gym, there was this elderly man that would come and he'd watch us spar. And I want to say he was probably like 70s or 80s, and he would be yelling out Irish Hand Grenade every time I'd spar. And then me and my coach asked him why he said that, and he said that he knew a guy back in the 40s and 50s that could be my twin brother and was also a southpaw, looked like me, fought like me, said we looked like the exact same person. And that guy was called the Irish Hand Grenade. So he said that I was like this reincarnation of his buddy or of this guy that he knew. So then I was fighting in Boston, boxing, and they announced me as the Irish Hand Grenade. And I said to my coach, I go, did you hear that? They called me the Irish Hand Grenade. Same thing that guy said. And he goes, yeah, he goes, I told him that's who you were. He goes, I thought it was just perfect and it fits so well that I just went with it. So, and that's how it happened. So ever since then, right. That's just what they called me. They called me that the whole time I was in the gym. Every time I would show up, they just called me Grenade or Irish. They would say, hey, what's up, Irish? What's up, Grenade? Or whatever. So just what happened.
Interesting. Well, I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you so much for doing this, and thanks for putting your body on the line for everyone's entertainment for years. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate the support, man. Thank you for having me on. And reach out anytime, man.
Yeah. And before we go, is there anywhere people can reach you?
I'm really I'm not a big social media guy. Obviously my Facebook is Marcus Paul Davis. And then my Instagram is also Marcus Paul Davis. And I have a Twitter. I never use it. And everybody tells me I should. I think it's still got like 20,000 people following it or whatever, but I don't know why, because I never use it. But
20,000 disappointed people.
Yeah, well, they don't want to hear from me anyways. I'm old now. I'm like the guy that says, get off my lawn all the time. That's what I've turned into. I'm 50. I'm not, which is funny because I was at my best, like at my highest when I was ranked in the top 10 in the world. I was actually 35 years old, and and felt like what was funny is that one day at 35, I felt my greatest. I felt unbelievable, and then just one day I woke up and I felt like everything was broken. So time just caught up to me real quick. At 35, it's like the magic window. I try to kind of pass through it, and then everything was downhill from there.
All right. Well, thank you again. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
All right, man. Yeah. Good luck, and talk to you in the future.
Thanks. See ya.
See ya.
Thanks everyone for listening. If you want to hear more Mind Picker, check out some of my previous shows and follow so you never miss a new episode. Want to help out with the show? 5-star rating would do just that. Bye.